Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Navneet Singh and with me is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visits historical places of Imphal, appreciates locales' efforts to preserve history. Bilateral defence exercise between India and Australia, Austra Hind 22 to start from Monday. The 53rd edition of IFFI Goa to come to close on Monday. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be chief guest at Republic Day celebration 2023. China seeks to assert dominance in Indian Ocean region, an effort to counter India's influence. China faces protests against COVID-19 curbs. The intra-governmental deadlock in Venezuela resolved. US welcomes the efforts. In FIFA World Cup 2022, Morocco slashes Belgium by 2-0. And in boxing, Ravina clinches gold in Youth Boxing World Championship. Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, who is on a 3-day visit to Manipur, visited the All India EMA market in Imphal on Sunday. Known as the Mothers Market or EMA Kaithal or Nupi Kaithal, the all-women market, solely managed and run by women, is also said to be nearly 500 years old. Dr. S. Jaishankar took to Twitter to express his views on the market, highlighting it as a great example of Nari Shakti powering economic growth. He also tweeted about his visits to the Imphal Peace Museum in Manipur. He commended the cooperative efforts that have helped to capture our past so well. Dr. Jaishankar said he was particularly moved to see the calligraphy of former PM Shinzo Abe at the Imphal Peace Museum. The museum is a testimony too to the close relationship between India and Japan, now coming into its own. He said Mr. Abe's vision of India and Japan cooperating to strengthen peace will always inspire us. The minister also visited the Moirang headquarters of the Indian National Army, where the tricolour was hoisted in 1944. He appreciated the museum for displaying the heroic efforts of Netaji. Later in the afternoon, Dr. Jaishankar visited Manipur's Ithing village and discussed developmental issues with locals there. The 53rd International Film Festival of India, IFFI, will come to a close tomorrow in Goa. The closing ceremony will be held at Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Stadium near Panaji in the evening. Union Minister and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur, Minister of State for Information and Broadcasting Dr. L. Murugan, and Goa Chief Minister Pramod Sawant will be present on the occasion. A host of film personalities will also grace the occasion. They include Akshay Kumar, Asha Parekh, Ayushmann Khurrana, Manushi Chillar, Isha Gupta, Rana Duggabati and Anand Rai. Telugu superstar Chiranjeevi will be given the Indian Film Personality of the Year 2022 award at the closing ceremony. Polish film Perfect Number, directed by Krzysztof Zanussi, is the closing film of this year's IFFI. A number of awards including the Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor, Male and Female, and Special Jury Award will be presented at the closing ceremony.
The President of Egypt, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, will be the chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations on the 26th of January next year. This is the first time that the President of Egypt will be the chief guest at India's Republic Day. External Affairs Ministry said India and Egypt enjoy warm and friendly relations based on civilizational and deep-rooted people-to-people ties. Both the countries are celebrating the 75th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations this year. Egypt has been invited as a guest country during India's presidency of G20 in 2022-23. French Minister for the Armed Forces Sébastien Lecornu on Sunday reiterated that France and India are united in their desire to defend their maritime sovereignty and guarantee freedom of movement at sea in the Indo-Pacific zone. Lecornu is on a visit to India to hold the Indo-French Annual Defence Dialogue and to strengthen the strategic ties, according to the statement released by the French Embassy. He also onboarded the Indian Navy's newest aircraft carrier, designed and manufactured in India, the INS Vikrant, today. During his two-day visit to India, November 27th to November 28th, the French Minister Lecornu will hold wide-ranging talks with his counterpart, Rajnath Singh, spanning all aspects of our defence cooperation, including operational defence ties, counter-terrorism, maritime security in the Indo-Pacific, and industrial and technological partnerships in line with India's Atmanirbhar Bharat policy. The French minister is also expected to meet the External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, and will discuss global issues of common concern, including the situation in Europe and the Indo-Pacific, and will also convey France's full support for India's presidency of the G20, which is beginning on the 1st of December, the statement reads. Minister Lecornu will also meet National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister, Ajit Doval, for discussions on regional security issues and our close cooperation in combating terrorism. During his visit, Minister Lecornu will visit the National War Memorial in Delhi to pay tribute to India's soldiers who have laid down their lives in the line of duty, the statement added. The Armed Forces Minister's visit to India reaffirms France's engagement in the Indo-Pacific and India's centrality in the French strategy for the region. It comes in a year that has seen an acceleration of the French and Indian armed forces' endeavours towards even greater interoperability through joint air, navy and army exercises such as IMEX-22 in March, Varuna in March and April, and the recently concluded Garuda October to November as per the statement. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will co-chair the 4th India-France Annual Defence Dialogue with French Minister for Armed Forces Sébastien Lecornu, according to the statement released by the Defence Ministry.
Thailand has opened its borders to tourism, and the number of passengers and tourists at Bangkok Airport has increased, leading to long passenger queues at the Bangkok Airport, seen standing in line for hours. The reason for the long queues is to get immigration clearance, and the number of people taking on-arrival visas is high. Thailand is attracting tourists in a big way after nearly 2 years of closure due to the COVID pandemic. Thailand's ambassador to India, Patarath Hongtong, on Sunday advised Indians to obtain a Thailand visa from the embassy or consulate general to avoid long queues at the Bangkok airport. Post-COVID-19 pandemic, Thailand has opened its borders to all citizens, and international visitors have been complaining on social media and to the Thai authorities about the long queues at the airport for the immigration clearance at Bangkok airport. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has informed that a meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors will be held in February as part of the G20 meeting chaired by India. Since the meeting will be held in Bengaluru, the Union Finance Minister has asked the startups to utilize this event to showcase their profile to the visiting international guests. She was speaking at the Vananam Startup Inclusivity Summit in Bengaluru on Sunday. The finance minister said different cities in India are chosen to host G20 related meetings next year. The bilateral training exercise Austra Hind 22 between contingents of the Indian Army and the Australian Army is scheduled to take place at Mahajan Field Firing Ranges in Rajasthan from Monday. The exercise will be held till 11th December. This is the first exercise in the series of Austra Hind with participation of all arms and services contingent from both armies. The Australian Army contingent, comprising soldiers from the 13th Brigade of the 2nd Division, has arrived at the exercise location. The Indian Army is represented by troops from the Dogra Regiment. Exercise Austra Hind will be an yearly event that will be concluded alternatively in India and Australia. The aim of the exercise is to build positive military relations imbibe each other's best practices, and promote the ability to operate together while undertaking multi-domain operations in semi-desert terrains under a UN peace enforcement mandate.
The water transport workers across Bangladesh have started an indefinite strike from Sunday midnight in support of their 10-point charter of demands, including fixing of the minimum wages at 20,000 taka. The strike has affected the unloading of containers at the outer anchorage of Chattogram port and the bank of Karnapulhi River. The main demand of workers includes minimum wages of 20,000 taka per month and providing appointment letter, identity cards and service books to workers. The water transport workers are also demanding social security measures like Contributory Provident Fund and Seafarer Welfare Fund to provide food and sea allowances, and providing 10 lakh taka compensation for accidents and death in harnesses. After years of failed attempts to solve the political deadlock, Venezuela's government and the opposition, with the active mediation of Norway, have signed a preliminary agreement to find a way out of the country's political crisis on Saturday. During talks in Mexico, the two parties issued a joint statement requesting the release of billions of dollars that had been frozen abroad over the alleged irregularities in the 2018 elections. The U.S. response to this agreement is welcoming, terming it a step in the right direction. It also said oil company Chevron would resume some activity in Venezuela, including importing Venezuelan crude in the U.S. Mexican Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard said that the agreement represents hope for all of Latin America. China continued its forays into South Asia and the Indian Ocean region (IOR) by organizing the first high-level China-India Ocean Region Forum on Development Cooperation this week, with 19 countries from the region excluding India. The event was quietly held along with many other events, including the 6th China-South Asia Expo, China-India Ocean Region Think Tank Forum in hybrid format in Kunming on November the 21st, 2022, nonetheless showcasing China's continuing quest for a larger presence and role in the strategically important Indian Ocean. The forum was hosted by China International Development Cooperation Agency, CIDCA. According to a press release issued by CIDCA, high-level representatives of 19 countries, including Indonesia, Pakistan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, Nepal, Afghanistan, Iran, Oman, South Africa, Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania, Seychelles, Madagascar, Mauritius, Djibouti, Australia, and representatives of 3 international organizations were present at the hybrid forum. India has been regularly engaging with the Indian Ocean littoral countries through such mechanisms like the Indian Ocean Rim Association (IORA) and the Indian Ocean Navy Symposium (IONS) under the vision of security and growth for all in the region, SAGAR, as propounded by Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a visit to Mauritius in 2015. China is a dialogue partner of the IORA along with Russia, the US and several European countries. In IONS2, which brings together 24 countries in the region, China, which is not an Indian Ocean country, is one among several observers. Experts have said China's initiation of a new forum for IOR countries, despite the other successfully established forums, is worrisome and apparently is aimed at countering India's strong influence in the region.
In China, a fresh wave of protests against heavy COVID-19 curbs spread to more cities, including the financial hub Shanghai on Sunday, after an apartment block fire killed 10 people on Thursday. Many internet users surmised that residents could not escape in time because the apartment was partially locked down. However, Chinese media denied the allegation. According to a video circulated on social media, showed crowds in Shanghai shouting slogans against the government, urging lifting the lockdown. China is battling a surge in infections that has prompted lockdowns and other restrictions in cities across the country. Infections have hit new highs in China in recent times in spite of tough zero-COVID policy. China Defense President Xi Jinping's signature zero COVID policy as life-saving and necessary to prevent overwhelming the healthcare system. Officials have vowed to continue with it despite the growing public pushback and its mounting toll on the world's second biggest economy. China's daily new COVID cases set another record for fourth straight day amid fast-spreading protests against government's strict COVID measures in many cities. National Health Commission announced nearly 40,000 new infections till date. China has dogmatically stuck with President Xi's signature zero COVID policy, even as much of the world has moved on with pragmatic ways to handle it. Our Beijing correspondent reports hundreds of young people looking like students and workers gathered in Shaoyang district, where all the embassies are located, and are continuing with their protest, which has already gripped many cities and universities across China. Heavy police presence with reinforcements are reported. According to media reports and videos floating on social media, thousands of demonstrators protested on the streets of Shanghai yesterday, demanding ease of COVID curbs in Shanghai and chanted anti-government slogans. Crowds of demonstrators in Shanghai shouted and held up blank sheets of papers early on Sunday evening, as well as a symbol of protest. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
Welcome back. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen has resigned as head of the ruling Democratic Progressive Party DPP after her party suffered defeat in Sunday's local elections. In a short speech, Ms. Tsai said she will take the responsibility for the loss of her party because she chose the candidates who ran in local elections. She also thanked her supporters in the speech after offering her a resignation. In Italy, one person was killed and 10 more were reported missing on Sunday after heavy rain caused a landslide on the holiday island of Ischia. The Italian fire brigade said search and rescue operations are underway in the small town of Casamicciola, Terni, and reinforcements have been sent from Naples. But weather conditions are complicating the search, Italy's Civil Protection Department said. 70 firefighters are currently on the island assisting with the search and rescue, the Italian fire brigade added. Ischia, in the Gulf of Naples, was hit by torrential rain on Sunday, damaging cars, buildings and roads.
Belarus's long-standing Foreign Minister Vladimir Makey has died at the age of 64. The country's Foreign Ministry on Sunday said Vladimir Makey has suddenly passed away without giving further detail. Makey had held his post since 2012. Makey was scheduled to meet the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Monday, according to Russian state media outlet RIA Novosti. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko has expressed his condolences to the family and friends of Makey. In a statement, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has also expressed deep shock over his death. In the FIFA World Cup 2022, Morocco stunned number 2 ranked team Belgium with a sensational 2-0 victory in their second Group F match at Qatar. Abdelhamed Sabiri and Zakaria Aboukhallal scored a goal each to keep Moroccan team's round of 16 hopes alive. Earlier today, Costa Rica defeated Japan 1-0 in a Group E match at Ahmed bin Ali Stadium. In the first half, none of the teams could score a goal. Keisher Fuller scored the first goal of the match in the 81st minute to put his side in the driver's seat. With this win, Costa Rica have climbed to the third place in Group E, above Germany, while Spain occupied top spot and Japan are second. In their opening games, Japan stunned Germany 2-1, while Costa Rica received a 7-0 defeat from Spain. Croatia and Canada will clash later tonight in a Group F match at 9:30 p.m. In the late night encounter, as high-flying Spain will take on Germany at Al Bayat Stadium in Al Khor, Qatar.
In boxing, reigning Asian champion Ravina has won a gold in her final bout as India ended the youth men's and women's world championships with 11 medals in La Nucia, Spain. In the 63 kg category final, the Indian pugilist beat Megan de Cler of Netherlands 4-3 by split decision after the bout was reviewed. In the other final, Kirti lost 0-5 to European youth champion Cleona Elizabeth D'Arcy of Ireland in the 81 plus kg category to settle for silver. India was a dominant force at the event as the 25-member team bagged 11 medals including 4 golds, 3 silvers and 4 bronze. Overall, 17 Indians had qualified for the quarterfinals of the tournament, which was more than any other country in this edition. The women's pugilists' total tally of 8 medals was the highest among all countries at this year's edition of the championships, followed by Kazakhstan's 5 and Uzbekistan's 4. India's men's hockey team suffered a 7-4 defeat to Australia in their second clash of the 5-match hockey test series in Adelaide today. With this, Australia took a 2-0 lead in the series as the hosts also registered a 5-4 victory in their first match on Saturday. Indian captain Harmanpreet Singh's 2 goals in the second and the 59th minute held the visitors take an early lead. However, Australian star Blake Gover's hat-trick in the 11th, 26th and the 52nd minute put the game beyond India's reach. Jack Welch struck a brace in the 16th and the 23rd minute, while 1 goal each netted by Jacob Anderson and Jake Wetton in the 47th and 48th minute respectively, giving the hosts a dominating 7-4 victory. Hardik Singh in the 24th and Mohammad Raheel in the 35th minute scored the other 2 goals for India. Australia's Jake Harvey was declared the player of the match. The match was also Australian captain Eddie Oakendon's 400th international cap, the first men's hockey player from his country to achieve the feat. India and Australia meet for the 3rd test on Wednesday. The 5-match series, part of India's FIH World Cup preparations, concludes on the 4th of the next month.
The second ODI between India and New Zealand was called off due to rain at Seddon Park in Hamilton today. India were 89 for loss of 1 wicket in the 13th over when play was stopped for the second time due to rain. Surya Kumar Yadav and Shubman Gill were rebuilding the innings after Shikhar Dhawan lost his wicket in the 6th over. Earlier, New Zealand captain Kane Williamson won the toss and opted to bowl. New Zealand won the first ODI by 7 wickets to gain a 1-0 lead in the series. The third ODI will be played on Wednesday at Hagley Oval in Christchurch. In today's Hotspot section, we bring you a commentary on India's preparations for G20 presidency. The script has been prepared by AIR news analyst Kaushik Roy and read by Miss Reshma Tiwari.
India is all set to take over the presidency of G20 in December 2022. The G20 is a group of the world's top 20 industrialized nations, accounting for 85% of the global gross domestic product (GDP). Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the logo of the G20 Summit 2023 on the 8th of November 2022. He also launched the website of India's G20 presidency and a mobile application G20 India on both Android and iOS platforms. The G20 logo draws inspiration from the vibrant colors of India's national flag: saffron, white, green and blue. It juxtaposes planet Earth with the lotus, India's national flower that reflects growth amid challenges. The earth reflects India's pro-planet approach to life, one in perfect harmony with nature. Below the G20 logo is Bharat, written in the Devanagari script. The logo draws upon elements contained in various entries received during an open competition for the logo design. The contest, organized on MyGov portal, received an enthusiastic response with over 2,000 submissions. This is in line with Prime Minister's vision of Jan Bhagidari during India's G20 presidency. presidency. The theme of India's G20 presidency, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or One Earth, One Family, One Future, is drawn from the ancient Sanskrit text of the Maha Upanishad. Essentially, the theme affirms the value of all life, human, animal, plant, and microorganisms, and their interconnectedness on the planet Earth and in the wider universe. The theme also spotlights life, lifestyle for environment, with its associated environmentally sustainable and responsible choices, both at the level of individual lifestyles as well as national development, leading to globally transformative actions resulting in a cleaner, greener, and bluer future. The logo and the theme together convey a powerful message of India's G20 presidency, which is of striving for just and equitable growth for all in the world. As we navigate through these turbulent times in a sustainable, holistic, responsible, and inclusive manner, they represent a uniquely Indian approach to our G20 presidency of living in harmony with the surrounding ecosystem. For India, the G20 presidency also marks the beginning of Amrit Kal, the 25-year period beginning from the 75th anniversary of its independence on 15th August 2022, leading up to the centenary of its independence, towards a futuristic, prosperous, inclusive, and developed society distinguished by a human-centric approach at its core. The present G20 website will seamlessly migrate to the G20 presidency website www.g20.org on 1st December 2022, the day India takes over the G20 presidency. In addition to substantive information about G20 and logistics arrangements, the website would also be used to build and serve as a repository of information on G20. The website includes a section for citizens to submit their suggestions. Speaking on the occasion of launching the logo and website, Prime Minister Modi said that India's G20 presidency is coming at a time of crisis and chaos in the world. The world is going through the after effects of a disruptive, once-in-a-century pandemic, conflict, and a lot of economic uncertainty. The symbol of the lotus in the G20 logo is a representation of hope in these times. No matter how adverse the circumstances, the lotus still blooms. Even if the world is in deep crisis, we can still progress and make the world a better place. In Indian culture, both the goddess of knowledge and prosperity are seated on a lotus. This is what the world needs most today. Shared knowledge that helps us overcome our circumstances, and shared prosperity that reaches the last person at the last mile. This is why in the G20 logo, the earth is placed on a lotus too. The 7 petals of the lotus in the logo are also significant. They represent the 7 continents. 7 is also the number of notes in the universal language of music. In music, when the 7 notes come together, they create perfect harmony, but each note has its own uniqueness. Similarly, G20 aims to bring the world together in harmony while respecting diversity.
Now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Washington Post writes rare protests against China's zero-COVID policy erupt across country. The Financial Times reports Latin America's stagnation worse than the 1980s, says United Nations official. The Guardian writes that 49 people sentenced to death for mob killing in Algeria. Japan Times reports that US and NATO scramble to arm Ukraine and refill their own arsenals. South China Morning Post says that China agrees Cuba debt relief and new funds after meeting between nations leaders, and the Khabar Hub writes that EC decides to hold re-election in 10 polling stations in Dolakha.
A quick look at the headlines once again. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visits historical places of Imphal, appreciates locales' efforts to preserve history. Bilateral defence exercise between India and Australia, Austra Hind 22 to start from Monday. The 53rd edition of IFFI Goa to come to close on Monday. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to be chief guest at Republic Day celebration 2023. China seeks to assert dominance in Indian Ocean region, an effort to counter India's influence. China faces protest against COVID-19 curbs. The intra-governmental deadlock in Venezuela resolved. US welcomes the efforts. In FIFA World Cup 2022, Morocco slashes Belgium by 2-0, and in boxing, Ravina clinches gold in Youth Boxing World Championship. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by Artist from Barbados. And with that, we end this bulletin. We will be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.